welcome to 500 Open Tabs. I'm Hannah Hillam.
And I'm Kaveh Taherian. Hannah, how you doing?
Well, I'm here. How are you doing?
Listen, we just had a nice weekend.
We did.
You came down to LA.
Fun.
We had some fun. We went to the pool. I've never seen you so excited in your entire life by going to the pool. You were
Apparently,
swimming.
he has never seen me truly happy until he saw me in the pool.
It's the first time, years into the relationship.
Wow.
We got a chance.
Yeah, you have a pool, you jerk. I want one.
I mean, I don't have a pool. The complex in which I live has
Okay.
a pool. Let's be clear. I don't want people to think I'm one of those rich podcasters.
Oh,
like
you're
over
right.
here
You're
with
right. I was
$100
gonna say,
million
let's not
deals.
split hairs.
Yeah.
But all the money you give us goes
Yeah.
directly to his pool.
Yes.
Yeah.
We got to go to the pool. That was fun. Of course, you were in town because we were on Jordan Jesse Go, which I believe at the time of this episode's release, it should have already come out.
Yeah, last week.
So thanks again to those guys for having us on. It was a lot of fun. Of course, it was always nice to see Stephen, who is a
Ray
producer
Morris.
on the show.
And former guest.
Lots of talk about
this
glory
show.
holes.
There was a lot of glory hole talk.
Didn't expect that.
I want to go on record saying that I do wish we could open a restaurant called Glory Holes, but instead of, what glory holes are, we just feed people mozzarella sticks.
Mozzarella sticks through a glory hole. Yeah, that's the true
So,
glory that you get to feel.
How delicious would that be to just eat a mozzarella stick through a hole from a stranger?
Exactly. Making dreams come true in Los Angeles.
We are going to have a career pivot soon, which is we're both going to become synchronized swimmers for the Olympics.
Yep.
We did a routine. It sucked, but
if you
didn't stop
calling
us
it a
from
routine is
podcasting.
very generous, but yes.
It was really fun.
It was fun. It was a nice weekend. Sadly, it's been overshadowed by continuous escalation, both in... I got to be honest, I don't even know what's happening in LA anymore right now. Because I've been, for obvious reasons, sidetracked by what's happening in Iran.
For those who don't know, there's been attacks on Iran from Israel and, in so many words, from us, from the United States. And so that's been kind of it was funny because you and I were like, let's go swimming, then watch the news.
Yeah.
Let's go watch Rambo, and then we're going to watch the war. And then it's almost like this, let's watch Star Trek, and then back to the war.
Yeah.
It was a kind of an up and down, but
hey, listen, we spruced it up, all right? We also watched Los Angeles become a police state over the weekend, too. Don't forget,
we
please.
were there for some of it.
Yeah. Or
we went to a protest. No.
Or did we?
We didn't.
Anyway.
Yeah. So it's been
chaotic. It's been awful. Obviously, people have been asking me about it, and far be it from me to come out and make any kind of statement about it. But I thought I'd, at the very least, address the thing that's mostly been on my mind, which is that Iran is an extremely, extremely complicated country, as you can tell, most exhibited by me and my politics and the way I talk about everything. I feel like I'm a pretty good encapsulation of how many contradictions exist within our culture. And I think at this moment in time, it's very easy for people to take a specific side politically about what they think is best for the country or what they think is worse for the country. And, as always, unfortunately, all of these different opinions tend to completely ignore the people who are suffering in the middle of it. Like every war, people are getting killed, innocent people who are living their lives as best as they can, civilians. 10 million of them are getting asked to evacuate in the middle of the night. I mean, it's a humanitarian disaster waiting to happen, it seems.
Which, sorry, but that's how many people live in New York City. Imagine Manhattan leaving in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Nah.
Also, by the way, announcing it on the internet at 2 o'clock in the morning in a country where internet's down. So, but look, regardless of how I feel about it, like I said, up and down emotionally, it's been very complicated to try and stay focused in any of this, but really that pales in comparison to what people in Iran are suffering through right now and have suffered for the past 45 plus years under this murderous, disgusting regime. And at the end of the day, if you're listening to this and you care, whatever you can do to just let people know. And again, it's not about taking a specific stance. It's just about focusing on the victims of this and how they're the ones who suffer more than anybody else. And I guess that's really the only, again, I could scream about this for hours on end, and I have.
You have. Fully understandably. It's fun. It's funny. It's I've gotten texts for you from my friends who listen to the show. From this show, many of our listeners have learned a lot about Iran and Persia.
Just to be a little bit self-indulgent, that is part of what has been the fun of doing this, and sort of what has sort of creatively motivated me is like, a lot of times, a lot of what I focused on when I was doing a lot of film work when I was younger too was like about how representation of not just Iranian and Persian people, but just MENA, Middle Eastern, North African people in general tends to be like really one-sided, and it tends to be really comical in a way that's bad. And it's like, you're a terrorist or you're a victim of Islam in some way, and like you've been bombed by something. And so I think that tends to play into it doesn't just play into stereotypes, but it also keeps people in a box where they don't see anybody as human. And part of seeing as people as human is not just like, the humanity and the love, but also the absurdity and like the kind of the comedy of it. And I hope what I've tried to do is just to give a sense of like, we could be dumbasses too in a fun way, and we could be a good hang. So,
yeah, I'd say
that's been my small, like, contribution to it that I feel like I've tried to put, because I'm like, that's the thing that I think I can do, that I've tried to help push the narrative forward.
Yeah. I think it's been productive.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
So listen, by shoving sugar cubes in mouth and falling asleep from a kebab nap, I hope I've humanized our people to make you feel slightly bad that they're getting killed at this moment.
Slightly. And that's what's important. I'm going to tack this on as a representative of MENA as well. Just kidding. No, but from somebody who remembers the Bush era and what happened after 9/11 is that this, for those of you who are, younger, and a lot of you are that listen to us, I found out on the Discord, they're like, I'm 24. And I'm like, what? What happened after 9/11 was one of the most insane propaganda pushes in American history, in the way that they demonized anyone from the Middle East and India for some reason. They were like, Sikhs wear turbans.
Getting
they
attacked.
did 9/11. The excuse to bomb it, to go into a country for oil and say that it's because they're trying to get rid of weapons of mass destruction.
Liberation.
Absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
And this is happening again. And you just don't try not to get caught up in the tornado of emotions that comes from what the government tells you is happening. Because I remember newspapers at the time being like, Iraq and Afghanistan are 2 days away from blowing us up. They're a week away from blowing us up. It was fear-mongering, and it's happening again. And use your brain. And go read about that, I guess.
Well said. I will say, though, it's been nice. I've been hearing from our friend Dr. Hoda. I've been talking to him a little bit. Talked to Rostigar a little bit. We've been talking to the other Kavehs, the other Iranian podcasters. Yeah, the Council of Kavehs.
Dude, the amount of Iranian podcasters now in my life has been like tripled since I met you. Quadrupled.
But yeah, they're all. I've been checking in with them, and they're all doing okay. Good. I mean, no one's doing okay, but you know what I mean.
No,
nothing. But again, at the time of this recording, who knows how much worse anything's going to get, and if anyone's, family suffer as a result of this. But as of right now, I think things are okay.
That's all you can do.
That's all you can do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was just my little spiel I wanted to say at the top of it.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you for listening. And thanks everybody for being supportive and for reaching out and for all the kind words. Again, I'm okay. I mean, I don't think I'm okay in general because I'm insane.
You're physically okay.
I'm physically okay. Don't worry about me. Worry about the people getting caught in the middle of this that have no say in any of it, unfortunately, and whose lives are being destroyed. And if you can, use whatever minimal platform you have to help raise their voices and don't let this happen in vain.
Exactly. Thank you. That was perfect. That was wonderfully said. Thank you, Kaveh.
Thank you. This week, my tab doesn't really fit into the conventional kind of tabs that I tend to do.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And this was an article that I've had open forever, and it's from CBR.com, which is about like comics and whatnot.
Okay.
And like pop culture stuff. And quote, here's the title of the article. You ready for this?
Okay. Yes, I am.
The Joker, meaning the Joker from Batman.
Uh-huh.
The Joker was once DC's UN ambassador from Iran until he wasn't.
Oh my goodness. What in the world? All right. How is the Joker the UN ambassador to Iran? Will you please explain?
No, he was the ambassador from Iran to the
From
UN.
Iran, not
Yes.
to Iran.
Yep.
Okay. That is a great clickbait title because I want to know what every single word of that title means.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Tell me.
I felt like this is an appropriate one to kind of
Yeah.
scratch my itch about wanting to read Iran stuff at the same time of trying to avoid reading about Iran stuff because it's making me depressed. Anyway, so this was part of the storyline from A Death in the Family, which ran in Batman number 426 to 429 in the fall of 1988. This was a very famous story that came out.
Okay. And 1988 is like peak Batman, like peak Silver Age Batman, isn't it?
It's like the 80s was a big, it was like Frank Miller and all that stuff. It was like Dark Knight Returns makes him like a huge popular figure again, and it's like a year away from, I think it's a year away. I forget when Tim Burton's Batman comes out. It's either 88 or 89.
I think it's 89.
It's probably 89. So it's right before Batman's about to like explode. But it was written by Jim Starlin with pencils by Jim Aparo and covers done by our very own boss boy, Mike Mignola.
Hey, a lot of Jims.
Yep.
And one Mike.
And as you know, books like Batman, one Mike.
Not
that sounds
Mike.
like a weird, terrible viral internet pornography video of many Jims and one Mike.
2 Jims, 1 Mike. Oh, that video scarred me.
Devastating. So Batman's part of a long, long, long narrative arc, much like soap operas. And they bob and weave and are very self-reflexive and completely insane. So like, I'll give them that. So it's not always fair to just poke your head into like a conversation that's been going on for like 15 years. But even then, the Joker
is that what we're going to do?
Yeah, but the Joker as the ambassador from Iran to the UN in the 1980s, dear Lord.
Well, the political climate of the 80s has a lot to do with it too, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to get into all of that. So Jim Starlin, the writer. So by the time he came onto his Batman run, he'd already been like around for a minute. He'd worked for Marvel. He co-created Shang-Chi. He worked with Bernie Wrightson. Oh. He's kind of had like a few things under his belt. They move on to the infamous A Death in the Family arc. And at this point in the Batman universe, the role of Bruce Wayne's mentee / boy toy / Thanksgiving guest roommate that he brings with him, Robin, was fulfilled by Jason Todd.
Okay.
Dick Grayson's the original. I think there's been like 5 Robins.
There's a bunch, yeah.
Yeah, there's like 4 or 5 of them. The first one was Dick Grayson. This is Jason Todd. So now it's the second one. It just
has like one after the other.
It's James Bond kind of thing where he's just like, they got to replace them.
All named Robin and all Batman sub.
Yes.
Roommate. You know what though? I don't think Robin's a sub.
I don't know what Robin is. I'm sure there's extensive discussions about this on Reddit.
I'll go there after.
I'm going to defer to them. I'm like, nothing that we're going to come up with will be as detailed and
neither of us
hotly
are gay
contested
men
and debated.
Or tapped into the gay, stuff. Gay stuff.
If you know about the gay stuff and you're listening, let us know in a listener email.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know what if there's a consensus
the
around the gay
undertones,
community. Yeah. Send us a tab. That'll be fascinating to read, actually.
That would be amazing.
So Jason Todd is actually not very popular as a character for readers of DC Comics. Everyone kind of hates him.
Interesting.
A lot of the people working at DC also don't like him, particularly, especially not the writer Jim Starlin. And Starlin had a penchant for killing off characters as a way to heighten drama, which frankly it's a smart move. It's a way to just make like the stakes much higher, especially with superheroes where like no one ever dies.
Right.
And he had this idea that he thought would dovetail beautifully with what DC had in the works at the time. And get ready. This is a quote. I think this is from some convention he was at a few years ago. And it says, quote, this is from Jim. It was at the beginning of the AIDS epidemic. DC had this great idea and they put in a suggestion box and said, what character should we give AIDS to? And we'll do a special story.
No way.
Yes.
No.
Mm-hmm.
They took a voter poll on who should have AIDS in the DC.
Who should we give AIDS to in the DC universe?
Hey, it's more than Reagan ever did.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's true. They acknowledged it.
They acknowledged that it was that it
They
existed.
didn't ignore
AIDS
the way that the
epidemic.
Reagan administration did. No. True.
That's absurd.
That
Dude,
was like a
absurd.
spit. I like spat out my water when I was reading that.
I just imagined it like one of those like boxes you put like a suggestions box.
That's what it was.
And it just says in big letters, who do we give AIDS to?
Yeah. Robin, AIDS. So he says, so Jim goes to say, I stuffed it with robins. Every day I was sticking robins in there.
Insane. Sorry, speechless. Okay, I want to. What?
This is like broken your brain.
Just a second. I'm trying to like overcome whatever. I'm just picturing. I'm picturing some guy writing Robin like a billion times and just shoving it into the AIDS box.
That's literally what he's doing, into the AIDS box. Exactly. There's an AIDS box at DC. This guy's just putting Robin in there over and over again.
Give me a second. You broke me.
Yeah.
You broke me. This is almost like as good as Nixon being in the Kennedy in Dallas.
In Dallas,
at the same time as Kennedy at a bottling company.
Anyway, so the quote continues. Let me just finish it. Every day I was sticking robins in there, but they recognized my handwriting and they threw all the robins out. But it gets better, Hannah. It gets better.
No, it doesn't. It can't.
It does.
I can't handle it.
It does. And Jimmy Olsen won. You know Jimmy Olsen?
No.
Who works at Planet Express, or not Planet Express, the Daily Planet. Daily Planet, right? I'm confusing all my things.
I don't know.
Jimmy Olsen works with Clark Kent. He's like the kid in the newsroom or whatever.
It's just another Jimmy. When you say Jim, I'm just like, oh, sure.
Jimmy
blank,
Olsen, right?
Jim, fill in the blank.
So they voted to kill Jimmy Olsen with AIDS.
Okay. All right.
Internally. And then they found out that, so then there was a Superman movie that was coming out. They found out that the actor who plays Jimmy Olsen in the Superman movies was gay.
Oh, no.
So they abandoned the whole thing.
Smart move. Yeah. Good choice, I guess. You don't have to make this choice at all, but sure, now that you've set these parameters that someone has to die of AIDS, that's a good choice to not do that.
I'm glad Jimmy. That there was a limit to their insanity, that they were like, this, I guess, like, that's the part where, like, this part looks bad.
Again, more than Reagan ever did. So
yes, I just was like, I absolutely just baffled by that entire side story. So they scrapped it.
Okay, the whole AIDS plot, they scrapped.
The whole AIDS plot is gone. But
good.
So, I guess I can't even read this next line. I guess good on DC for not killing Jason Todd with AIDS. But I swear to God. Anyway, Starlin, he doesn't give up. He can't give Jason Todd AIDS, but he'll be damned if he can't still kill him. So lucky for him, at a DC retreat.
This is really wrecking me.
Yeah, as it should.
Okay, just talk.
Editor Dennis O'Neill was at a DC retreat, and he cornered the president, Jeanette Kahn, and pitched an idea based on a sketch he had seen on Saturday Night Live.
Oh,
in it, Eddie Murphy is seen holding a lobster that's named Larry, and he's kind of talking to the camera, and he reads two different 900 numbers. One would tally a vote to boil Larry, and the other would be to keep him alive.
I remember that sketch. Okay. So I see where this is going.
Over the span of 30 minutes on the episode, I guess SNL got like almost 500,000 calls.
What?
Yeah, because everybody was it was a huge success. Like everybody was obsessed with it. They all called in, and sidebar, thankfully Larry's life was spared. So
yeah.
O'Neill was like, we should do that shit. Like, let's let the fans decide. We're just a platform. We're not a media company. Free speech. Let them do it. Etc. So on and so forth. Yeah. So DC bites and they move forward with the idea that like they should kill someone using this system. No longer with AIDS, just as like as giving him an option. So O'Neill, the editor, he's like, man, I sure feel bad that I didn't let Starlin give AIDS to Jason Todd, but I'm gonna make it up to him and let him write this story. And
all you
Because they
ever
both
wanted.
agree that they're like, we need to kill Jason Todd because no one likes him as a character.
No one likes him, yeah.
Yeah. So then it turns into like this event. And Starlin goes to town. He's mapping out the story over 4 issues. And he writes it, and then they start publishing it. And this is the story. A Death in the Family begins with Batman's voiceover saying, quote, "It took me 3 weeks to track down the kiddie porn ring's main warehouse. So you know we're already off to a good start."
Oh.
This is real.
Great. No, I know. This is believable. Fully
Yep.
believable. This is 100% DC Comics in 1988.
Yeah.
Or 1990?
This is 1988.
Yeah.
And Batman's all like brooding and shit. And he's there with Robin, and they're like spying in the warehouse. They're like, oh, blah, 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 blah. But Robin gets all worked up, and he like kicks the shit out of all the child pornographers because he's a real one. Yeah.
Yeah. Naturally.
And Batman, and Batman, the billionaire vigilante, Batman.
I'm Batmayor, mayor of Bat.
Or I was thinking I sounded like I slurred and said Batmare, like he's a horse who's also a bat.
Half bat, half mare.
Half bat, half mare, exactly.
Gets nothing done.
And Batman, the billionaire vigilante, weighs in and he's like, bro, you need to be more professional. You can't just attack child pornographers. We have a system.
Okay. That's like one of those things that is vigilante work to do, is to track some people like that down. I don't like Batman right now.
Oh, you're not going to like him anymore. You're just going to keep getting annoyed with him.
Imperialist douchebag, dude.
Yeah.
Oh.
And Robin's like, I'm not old enough to have a driver's license, and for some reason you think it's responsible to bring me along on missions that endanger my life wearing nothing but a Speedo and a cape, but sure.
Sure, defend the child pornographer, Batman.
Exactly. And
I sure don't fit the bill.
And Batman just like gaslights him, and he's like, you're too emotional, and he puts Jason Todd on a leave of absence because he's being like as emotional as an Italian right now. He's like, you can't deal with it.
Kidding.
No, he actually does do this.
He puts him on a leave of absence?
Yeah, he's just like, you've been acting erratic lately. I can't trust you.
Okay, continue.
This is old-timey racism, like old-timey, like 1980s kind of shit.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Joker, I don't know, whatever. He like escapes Arkham and gets like missiles or whatever the shit and disappears. And like Batman's on it doesn't matter. Whatever. He's just doing his usual Joker shit. Batman tries to figure it out. And then he figures out that like a bunch of Joker's henchmen are going to Lebanon.
Okay.
And he's like,
Did you say Lebanon or Lebanon?
Lebanon. Sorry.
I heard Lebanon, and I was like,
Lebanon.
are they calling it Lebanon? I'm ready to throw.
He's going to Lebanon where the thick
Batman.
yogurt exists. Lebanon is so good.
Exactly. That's
No,
what my
Lebanon.
phone always used to correct your name to. Was
Lebanon? Lebna?
Lebna, yeah.
Kaveh got corrected to Leb. That doesn't even make sense.
I know.
That's funny. Racist ass phone.
Very. It corrects my husband's name to Swan.
Swan?
Swan. Hannah and Swan.
Anyway, Joker apparently has, according to Batman's, detective work, he's like, I think the Joker has gone to Lebanon. And meanwhile, Jason Todd, he's on leave of absence. He's going on like emo walks in the old neighborhood. And this lady that knew his parents is like, hey, I got some of your old shit here. And she hands him a box, inside of which is his birth certificate.
Oh, no.
And he's shocked to see Catherine Todd not as his mother's name, but it's smeared out. And it's like some name that begins with like an S. Because it turns out his biological mother was someone else entirely. The person that he thought was his regular mother, Catherine Todd, is not his biological mother.
Oh, man.
Also in the box is his father's address book, which he takes and he inputs like into the Bat computer. And he's trying to figure out who that S might be that would have like sort of fit the profile of who might be his mother based on who was in his address book. And he comes up
AI.
with, he has AI, essentially,
GPT,
Batman AI. Yeah, it's literally what Batman has is his own version of ChatGPT. And then it spits out a bunch of pictures of people with like 18 fingers and like hands that don't make sense. And it's Will Smith eating pasta for some reason.
And Robin looks at his hands. He also has 18 fingers. And he's like, I found my mom.
But it spits out 3 potential matches. And I shit you not, this is not a joke. It straight up turns into Mamma Mia.
No. So he's going to go on vacation with all 3 of them?
He's going to go on vacation and try to figure out which one of these 3 is his mother.
That I'd watch that musical.
Listen, it's an idea, all right? If somebody who writes music, I know there's a lot of musical fans listening to this show.
Disgraced advocate against child pornography goes on vacation to find his true mom. No songs at all, just a straight play.
You know, I could probably get ABBA to write those songs, even though they didn't technically write the songs for Mamma Mia. It was just pulled from their catalog. Anyway.
Yeah, but I bet they could.
It becomes Mamma Mia. All three of these women are overseas. One's in Ethiopia. One's in like Israel, Lebanon area. One's sort of like maybe in the Israeli area. And then the other one's, of course, in Lebanon. Very convenient. And he goes over there. Batman goes over there. Everyone's in Lebanon now. He doesn't even know. They don't know that they're both there. And Batman's hunting down the Joker before he sells like missiles or whatever to some buyers. Again, doesn't matter. And
80s stuff.
80s stuff. He's traveling around as Bruce Wayne at this point. And in my favorite panel ever, Bruce asks the Lebanese cab driver in Farsi to take him to where all the criminals hang out. Here it is. And it literally says in Farsi. And there's an asterisk there.
Why Farsi? Why?
Research.
Wait, they don't.
No, they do not speak Farsi in Lebanon. I mean, I'm sure there are
like
people
a secondary language, or
okay. I imagine there's some people who speak. No,
this
your
guy
cab
shouldn't
driver.
be speaking.
He would be speaking Arabic. He would not be speaking Farsi in Lebanon. Yes. Honestly, like secondary language, he'd probably be speaking French.
Right. Oh. Okay.
But anyway. Great research, guys.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That is one of those things where it's like, you just have to open an encyclopedia. That's all you have to do. It's not even hard to find.
Yeah.
Or ask one person. Ask one Lebanese person. I don't know. Why are we getting angry at the 80s? It's fine.
So this is my absolute favorite now, because you know what this means?
What?
Bruce Wayne knows Farsi. This is canon. You can take it to the bank. Why
did I put that together? Wait. You're right.
And Aghay Vane, if you are listening, I have a message for you. مرسی برای همه زحمت‌هایی که کشیدین برای کشور ایران. اما تو رو خدا اینقدر لوس نباشین دیگه. مالیاتتون رو بدین دیگه. بسه. Thank you.
What did you say?
Bruce Wayne will know.
Okay. Salute,
مالیاتون رو بدین. مالیاتون رو بدین.
Mm-hmm. I second that. Agreed. I don't know what. Go on.
After Batman arrives in the illegal terrorist market section of town that the Farsi-speaking cab driver took him, because that's the thing, by the way, you just hop on the L and you go to illegal terrorist stop.
Yeah, you get off at the terrorist bazaar.
Yeah. He runs into Dick Grayson there. He's like, "What? What are you doing here?" And for some reason, Dick Grayson's wearing a pink headscarf for reasons unknown.
Interesting.
I don't understand. But there seems to be like a lot of queer coding in a lot of this, which I think is interesting.
I would not be surprised. It's interesting, especially with Robin, because he is always very much portrayed like more effeminate.
Yeah,
and he's wearing a headscarf.
Anyway,
I'm going to chalk that up for not researching rather than
no, I don't think so at all. There he tells Batman about his Mamma Mia plan and how one of his potential moms might be this undercover Mossad agent who it turns out is about to make like a fake deal with some unnamed terrorist group that wants to bomb Tel Aviv. I'm assuming they're implied to be like Hezbollah or something at that time. That would have sort of fit the profile of what's going on at that period. Hezbollah, or maybe they're like Palestinians that like were pushed out, and the politics of that area gets a little bit complicated and messy. But
sounds real similar to what's happening now. Nothing changes.
But Batman, he's all like annoyed, but he's like, fine, whatever. We need to stick together because I got to keep an eye on you. But also, much like Meryl Streep, I found Mamma Mia to be an important part of hope and inspiration in the wake of 9/11. I'm emotionally invested in this.
She did not say that.
Oh, she did say that, actually. That's why she decided to do the movie. Go listen to the musical splitting episode of the Mamma Mia films that I did 3 years ago.
I guess I would have known that if I'd listened to your other podcast.
Listen, it's okay. I know you hate me. So they come in, they find a deal about to go down, and it turns out, of course, predictably, that Joker's the one brokering the weapons deal. And I might add, his word bubbles are in caret parentheticals, which means his dialogue is being translated into English, but they did not state that a new language is being spoken. Therefore, the previously established note of Bruce Wayne speaking Farsi with the cab driver still stands, which means the Joker is also fluent in Farsi. That's canon.
Incredible. This is This is actually incredible. This is awesome.
Theoretically, be an entire comic of the Joker and Batman having a conversation,
only
all
in
written
Farsi.
in Farsi, completely canon.
That's a great idea.
Yep. So all you Farsi-speaking creators out there, go for it.
Yeah, go for it, Kaveh. You're one of them.
Yeah, right. That's true. Anyways, the whole thing falls apart and Joker gets away. And turns out the Mossad agent isn't Robin's mom. So they go on to the next name on the list, who is conveniently also involved in terrorist activity, something or other that overlaps in Lebanon. And honestly, like, the plot's so stupid and none of this matters. And not the reason I was doing this tab, but just to get through it all and like rush through it. Batman and Robin, they go undercover as terrorists, which is as egregious as you'd expect. The other lady's not his mom, blah, blah, blah. So now they have to go find the last name on the list, who's in Ethiopia.
Okay.
So I'm a little confused on the chronology of this exactly in terms of releases, but I think it's after the second issue of this 4-issue arc that they printed the ad with the phone numbers to keep Robin dead or alive. And predictably, everyone's like, hell yeah, bro, Robin needs to die. Let's kill him. Kill Robin. So
back when democracy meant something, back when a vote meant something.
This is just, what's the boat in England that was like Bodie McBoatface was what? Yeah, this is the 80s equivalent of that.
Yeah, here's the thing. It's always going to be the dumbest thing.
Yep.
Someone's always going to be submit the dumbest thing.
Yeah. So they go to Ethiopia and they find Jason Todd's real mom, who's like, I don't know, helping people, but also like a criminal being blackmailed by the Joker, but she like double crossed. It doesn't matter. Blah, blah, blah. The Joker blows them up and Batman's too late and everyone's dead except for Batman.
She dies?
So I think she dies and then Jason Todd Robin dies. And there's like
Did he ever get to meet her?
Yeah, no, she's in that whole issue. The issue is like, he goes and he's like, oh my God, you're my mom. And she's like, oh yeah, I remember it, but I had to leave. It doesn't matter. It's for the point of this tab, it's just like, it's a whole other drama. Yeah. And then Batman's like, oh my God, this kid's dead. And he's sad and he's like holding him and blah, blah, blah. It's finished. But here's what happens now is that the Joker, he's done a really good job at terrorism, which means it's time to get recruited by the big leagues. So enter the Jerry Krause of terrorism, the Ayatollah Khomeini, who apparently was also trying to get that hugely coveted three-peat. He wanted another championship ring.
The much like that, what was the comic you made, the pretend Mad magazine when you were little? Your references and pop culture overlap in fascinating ways.
Strange ways, right?
Fascinating ways. But then it makes sense. So anyway, continue.
By the way, this isn't some like phone call. He literally goes behind a door and Khomeini is waiting to speak with him.
Wait, I have a position in my government I wish to offer you, Monsieur Joker.
Which, again, I'm just going to point this out. Joker speaks Farsi, as does Ayatollah Khomeini, obviously. And yet, in this moment, they decide to all speak English together. Why? Why?
This is insane.
Yep.
This is insane. There he is. Wow.
Also, I like that he calls him Monsieur Joker.
Yeah.
Not Monsieur Joker.
Would have been better. Would it have been?
I mean, Khomeini did go and like live in exile in France for a while. And
I was going to say, wasn't there a French connection?
Yes, there is. But still, I just think it's insane that he's like Monsieur Joker.
Yeah. When Joker obviously speaks Farsi.
Clearly. Has been doing all these deals. And it's not easy to do business deals in Farsi, by the way. It's one thing to be conversational, but like,
especially as
you have to talk about like
Joker.
Taxes. Yeah, exactly. But
love this. Okay.
So after filling their cheeks with sugar cubes and downing like 5 glasses of chai and like a kebab nap or two, they finally settle on an agreement. The Joker will be Iran's ambassador to the UN and deliver a very important speech on behalf of the Islamic Republic.
Okay.
And by being anointed as the ambassador, his criminal record is now clean.
What? Like his world criminal record or his New York one?
So he can just show up in New York City and he can't be arrested. He's just like, sorry, immunity, bro. I'm now a diplomat. I'm an ambassador. It's fine. The fact that he could just show up in New York City and not get arrested, this completely pisses off Batman. He's belligerent.
Oh, of course.
And because, of course, not just because of like the loopholes, but also he just killed Robin. And listen, this is the part that, again, doesn't make sense to me. He's mad about Robin getting killed, but he has no evidence of the Joker being the killer. So he can't bring the Joker to justice, since apparently Batman has always been about due process.
Yeah.
Again, train wreck of a story. Train wreck.
Insane. Honestly, not a single part of this makes sense.
Nope.
Not a bit.
Oh, it gets better. You ready for this?
I don't know.
Now, the CIA gets involved.
This should go great.
Yes. And they know that the Joker's coming to DC to give a speech. And so he has a meeting with the head of the head of the CIA has a meeting with Batman. And he's like, sorry, Bats, my hands are tied. We're the CIA and we got to keep it legal. You know, we don't know nothing about how to circumvent international law and impose our own unchecked will on other governments, least of all Iran. So the Joker's going to get that speech and there ain't nothing you could do about it.
Fully researched. the innocent, pure CIA.
Just trying to do the right thing. Just trying to work within the confines of the law and make sure that things are above ground. And absolutely. It gets crazier. To show that they're serious, they recruit none other than Superman himself to keep Batman in check.
The CIA recruits Superman to keep Batman in check.
Correct. Because remember, Superman sadly is the ultimate bootlicker, despite being a 100%. Refugee alien seeking asylum who came here, quote unquote, illegally, which I don't agree with, but that's what they would say.
That's what they would say. And of course, he's a bootlicker. Okay.
Yeah. And Batman's all pissed. I
don't like any of these people. You know what? At the end of the day, Spider-Man is the only good one. Out of all the superheroes in Marvel and DC, Spider-Man is a working man superhero.
Love a good Miles Morales. Love a good Peter Parker. But anyway, stay focused. Batman, he's so pissed at Superman stabbing in the back that he tries to punch him in the face, and then he just like almost breaks his hand because Superman's an alien.
This is like Donald Trump and Elon Musk breaking up.
Seriously.
It's the two of them.
But Batman's like, whatever, I'm just going to figure some shit out. I don't care. And then a bunch of other stuff happens. It doesn't matter. Then comes the big day. Batman can't do shit. His hands are tied. Also, it's probably broken. But Bruce Wayne, the billionaire, is able to get into the UN because, money.
Oh, money. Actually, this is the one part of the story, the only part of the story that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. He's like, oh, I just want to hang out. Basically, he's like,
sure, billionaire, walk right in.
Yeah, I'm a lobbyist, probably.
Probably.
Yeah. And the Joker shows up to give his big speech dressed like an Arab sheikh representing bisexuals at Pride. Look at this outfit.
Hold on.
I mean, he's literally wearing, it almost looks like he's draped himself in the bisexual flag.
Let me see.
That's not a judgment on how he's dressed. That's a judgment on the literal colors look like the bisexual flag. Am I wrong?
No, it's way crazier than I even expected. He's totally This is like racist and somehow homophobic at the same time, and somehow like a fashion crime.
Yeah.
So he's
literally wearing bicolors.
Yeah, give me a second. So he's strutting into the UN wearing, I don't know what this is called, but you said it was the outfit,
like the sheikh, like the Arab sheikhs, over just kind of thing.
Yeah, he's dressed as an Arab sheikh, but underneath his blue coat, his blue over thingy, is pink, and he literally looks like he's wearing the bi flag. Yeah. He's like, hey everybody, I'm here, I'm chaotic, I'm bi, and I'm appropriating a culture. So, I mean,
Which, if I were bisexual, I would think this is the funniest thing ever, and I would be obsessed with like mocking this over and over again. But that's not my.
Someone needs to cosplay this.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I think that would be the funniest thing ever because it's so stupid and awful.
Preferably not a white dude. Next, hey, come on, do your first cosplay. Make it this.
Oh, true. I think it should be a bisexual Mina person, personally.
Oh, okay.
I think that would be. I don't
shout out, call out to any bisexual Mina people. We have your next cosplay ready for you. Okay.
Anyway, he shows up and look. Okay, so just real quick, the bisexual flag aside.
Yeah.
Again, the favorable take here is that this is actually genius writing, but we all know that this is not good writing because they did not do the research, and this is ignorance. However, I could see that if a smarter person had written this could be like the biggest kind of like funny theater to happen in the UN, where the Joker's like, I'm not even going to dress like an Iranian because people don't know the difference. Like making some sort of like a chaotic statement about it to like spit in the face of everybody.
Yeah.
You could see a scenario where that would happen, which is also 100%. Such a disappointing aspect of. There's so many parts of the story where I'm like, you dropped the ball, you dropped the ball, you dropped the ball. You could have done something so funny here and you didn't do it. Anyway, he gives a speech. And I'm going to send you the speech because I don't want myself on camera reciting this speech for fear of getting arrested or murdered someday. So you can read the speech, but I think it's...
Yeah, for sure. They're just going to be like, oh, fun. She's reading something. Okay.
Yeah.
It is a great honor. So here's the speech from this Batman comic. Joker saying it. It is a great honor for me to be here tonight. I am proud to speak for the great Islamic Republic of Iran. That country's current leaders and I have a lot in common. Insanity and a great love of fish. But what? But unfortunately, we also share a mutual problem. We get no respect.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks of Iran as the home of the terrorist zealot. They even say worse things about me. Would you believe? This is hilarious. This is amazing. We've both suffered unkind abuse and belittlement. Well, we aren't going to take it anymore. You'll no longer be allowed to kick us around. In fact, you aren't going to be able to kick anyone around ever again.
Hits you right here in the feels.
That's absurd, man.
And after that, in the next page.
Okay. Send it. Okay. What's on the next page?
So the next page, he reveals that he's armed with like a gas gun, something or other, and he's got whatever, like some jokery laughing something gas, and he tries to kill everyone in there, but there's this one UN security dude who's super strong, and he grabs the gun and he breaks it in half, and then he sucks in all the gas. And it turns out Supes was undercover the whole time. Superman was there. He was in on the plan.
Wow.
He just couldn't let the CIA know.
Jeez. Man,
and
you know how fast people would like murder superheroes if they were real?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like mobs of people.
Immediately.
Anyway.
So Batman comes in and tries to grab the Joker, who runs out of the building where a helicopter is waiting for him that's being piloted, quote, by Arabs for some reason. That's literally says
Iranian
in there.
Arabs.
Yeah. I mean, there are technically Iranian Arabs. I just mean that, like, in the thing, it says the Arabs in the helicopter. So again,
okay. Sorry.
The generous take of this, somehow Hezbollah is like his escort when he goes over to the United States. I don't think that they've researched it this much.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
I think they're just using Iranian and Arab interchangeably.
That's what I mean. There's no nuance here. There's no like, there's technically Iranian Arabs, so we're going to have those be the Arabs that are. No, it's
and Arabs all speak Farsi,
researched.
by the way. Don't forget.
Oh yeah, of course.
Farsi is the language of Arabs.
Everyone over there speaks Farsi.
Yeah. And whatever, they fight and there's like gunshots and Batman jumps off the helicopter and into the ocean and like the helicopter crashes and we don't know if the Joker dies or not. The end. That's it. That's the end of the Death in the Family story. Which understandably, for obvious reasons, DC didn't bring back the Ayatollah as a character. But I'll say this is the last little bit. For some insane reason, They did retcon this story in the year 2000.
Oh, okay. For some insane reason, yeah.
They introduced the fictional Middle Eastern country of Qurac, Qurac, in Birds of Prey number 16 and rewrote the Joker's connection to Iran, replacing it with Qurac. And his new scheme involved orchestrating a nuclear attack on New York City, but his plans were foiled by Power Girl and Black Canary, who ignored diplomatic immunity to bring him to justice. And I have to say, this one is actually somehow even more gross.
Oh, how did they manage that?
Because it somehow... the only way I can explain this is like it takes the idea of like a white savior, but like it's the white villain. It's like the villain is the white savior, where he's like, oh, the Browns are just here to fulfill his like they'll go along with whatever insane thing that like the Joker wants to do because he's a bad guy.
Yeah. It's like opposite white savior.
Yeah. It's sort of like inverted white savior. It's
insane.
Poorly conceived and executed. Again, shameful. But anyway, It's gross, and that is the story of how the Joker met the Ayatollah Khomeini and became the UN ambassador. He was so
close. He could have just taken him out.
I don't know, man.
That's actually one of the most insane stories I've ever heard that DC has done.
Yep.
Unhinged. I just want to know what was going on in the writer's room, like between like
cocaine
lines of coke, where they just like, actually put him in this, make him dress like this, or like,
no idea,
make him speak Farsi. That's what they all speak, right?
Yeah,
you know. Actually, 100% that's what it was.
Yeah,
cocaine.
To have been a fly in the wall in that room would have been incredible.
Oof. Dude, what a trip you just took me on. This is absurd. I want you to explain every comic to me.
Yeah.
It's fun. You're really
I don't think
good
every comic is that insane.
Doesn't matter. You'll make it funny. So
that's true. I'll try my best. Anyway, thank you for listening. Sorry, that went a little bit long, but it was just there's too much to cover. Anyway,
thank you for that tab. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. What do you have for us today?
Well, I'm in the wrong thing, of course. Cool. Hold on. So today's the last week of Pride Month. When this comes out. And I've been doing, as we all know, if you've listened to the last 3 episodes, I've been doing like, I started opening a billion tabs at the beginning of the month and realized I just need to do a whole episode on all these, like a whole 4-episode arc on all these tabs I've opened. And I've been doing each letter of the LGBT name. So we did L, G, B, and today is the T. So that is for transgender. And trans history goes as far back as human history, because trans people have always existed, whether people like it or not. So since I've been focusing on the World War II aspect of this, that's another thing. The whole 4-episode arc is all World War II based, which is not making me freak out at all, reading all about this while this all goes down around me. You know,
you've turned into a boomer dad. It's fine. Just watching World War II documentaries, falling asleep on the couch. You're watching History Channel. Panic
instead.
Yeah.
So, put that aside. I'm not spiraling. So because I've been focusing on World War II, I'm going to be talking about a few people from that era, with one in particular being the main subject of today's episode. So before I get into the life of this person, whose name is Dora Richter, and Dora was the first person to ever receive full sex reassignment surgery in the world.
In the world?
Okay, in the world, ever.
Whoa.
The first full. There have been like things done here and there, but never full. Like, I'll get to it. So Dora, before I can get into how that came to be, I need to set the stage for what's going on at the time. And as I've said in previous episodes, 1900s Europe was very progressive in many ways, in that people were kind of like not as violent and evil about LGBT people as they are now, weirdly enough. Finland had given women the full right to vote at the beginning of the century. Women were running for office, and Iceland followed. And one of their earliest feminist politicians was named Bjørn Bjarnhen's daughter, and she was the wife of Valdemar Asmundsson, the guy who wrote the Icelandic Dracula.
Oh, shit.
So she was one of Iceland's first female politicians, at the turn of the century.
Inspired by the Icelandic translation of Dracula to enter politics.
Dude, it didn't inspire me to do that. Not that. I love that book. Read Mocked Mirkana, guys. It's hilarious and amazing.
Do you remember what episode it was off the top of your head? You probably don't.
It's like in the 20s or 30s.
Icelandic Dracula. Go look up the episode. Hannah did a great take of it.
Everyone voted that one as their favorite. Which,
that was your favorite from last year, huh?
Yeah, that was their favorite.
Nice.
Which was flattering.
Audience approved.
Famously,
Audience called the
1-900
number. Yeah, they were like, should I kill Hannah at the end of this season or keep her alive?
They kept me alive. They want me to talk about more, smutty.
We should do that at the end of this season. Be like, which one of us gets to get killed at the end of the season?
That is a loaded question.
That's why I said gets to get killed. Yeah,
it's gonna have to be me if we don't want to be problematic. Okay, just me out. Okay, so many other countries followed suit, and this also made way for early gay rights movements, and the very first one was started by a man named Magnus Hirschfeld. Now, sorry. Scam Likely. Scam Likely's calling me from the Discord.
It's going to be a guest on the show.
So have you heard of Magnus Hirschfeld at all? Does the name sound kind of familiar?
No, it's an incredible name, though.
Isn't it a good name? Magnus was a sexologist and doctor, and he started the very first gay rights advocacy group in the entire world, and it was founded in 1897.
Whoa.
Right? It was called the Scientific Humanitarian Committee, and this was one of the things that caught Willem Arendeus's attention when he was kind of figuring himself out and coming out of the closet. He relied a lot on the literature and stuff from that organization to help guide him.
This is the Dutch artist from two episodes
ago. The Dutch
ago.
Artist the gay artist who blew up the records
72?
office.
72?
I don't know. 2 episodes ago.
Yeah.
And so Magnus Hirschfeld was a German doctor and sexologist.
Yeah.
Who sounds funny. It's like, I'm a sexologist.
Sexologist sounds like something you would use as like a terrible line to pick up a girl at a bar. Hi,
I got my degree in sexology. I got my
PhD in sexology.
Well, there's real people and there's sexologists.
Okay.
So Magnus is awesome.
Imagine being an actual sexologist, and then when someone asks you at a bar, the reverse of that is like, it's very unfortunate. If someone asks you what you do when you're at the bar and you're like, I'm a sexologist, people just walk away.
They're like,
you probably have very bad numbers. Like your batting average is probably very low, and it's not your fault.
You're a male sexologist.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
If I heard someone say that, I'd be like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, exactly. You're a pervert.
Oh.
Sorry, continue.
Okay. Anyway, Magnus, very much not a pervert, was honestly, I'd heard about him before and kind of read about him, but he's an incredible person.
Mm-hmm.
He studied linguistics and natural science in Germany. He realized young that he was gay. Mm-hmm. After he completed his medical studies, he traveled the world, stopping over in Chicago in 1893 to document the
to get murdered.
Well, no, close. To document the world's Columbian Expo for a German newspaper. And so you know about this because we've mentioned this expo so many times in this podcast. And I even went back and found the times we mentioned it.
Nice.
So here is where we're going to take a little stop to pull all of our little stories together into this one expo, okay? Edward Muybridge from your tab about the motion picture industry first demonstrated his animal locomotion animation there of the horses that were going.
Yeah.
Rose O'Neill was there, the illustrator that I covered.
Artist, I remember.
The artist. And she stopped by the fair and sold a bunch of her work, which then launched her career.
She was the one that was married to the Idiot Brothers, right?
Yes.
One of them. She was married to...
One of the Idiot Brothers, yes. I don't remember their names.
I forgot their names, too.
Pierre de Coubertin, which is the guy mentioned in the 1904 Olympic Marathon tab, he was the founder of the International Olympic Committee in charge of resurrecting the Olympics for the modern age. And he was the guy who, he saw this World's Expo and he was like, dude, we could make the Olympics really cool like this.
Yeah.
And that was, he was there seeing it. He was inspired by it, famously kind of dropped the ball on it later. There was also, this was interesting. We hadn't talked about this, but there was a detailed and vivid description of the fair by a Persian travel writer named Mirza ul Sultana, written in Persian and published. And I tried looking for it everywhere, and it's not digitized, but I'm fascinated to
You know who
find
could
out.
read that? Is Batman and the Joker.
Why haven't they done that?
They'd fully be able to translate it for us.
Yeah.
That's canon.
I saw that on there. The Ferris wheel was debuted. There's something called a Tesla egg, which sounds like a new car that sucks.
Yeah.
Also Eglon. I'm just trying to make all the connections between next week's episode that you guys will hear. Eglon. So the entire fair was powered by Nikola Tesla's AC electricity, giving him a leg up on Edison at the time. And also where American serial killer H.H. Holmes would lure visitors to his big dumb murder mansion and kill them. So that's some context. So Magnus
Lots
is
going
there.
on. Yeah.
You know, accidentally bumps shoulders with Rose O'Neill, goes and watches Edward Muybridge's animation, and eventually finds himself in the homosexual subculture of Chicago. And it is a life-changing thing because he's like, bro, there's gay people here too?
Like, it's not just in my town.
Right. No, in so many words.
I thought we invented
whoa.
gay.
I thought the Germans invented gay people. But what struck him was that he was like, we're the same everywhere.
Yeah.
The doy.
The doy.
And he started this theory that, like, it's not wrong. It's not an illness. It's normal. You know? Like we all know
he was
now.
raised to think that it was not, because I'm confused because you said a bunch of stuff was progressive and whatnot.
It was progressive
at that time,
yeah,
but it was still seen as, even in Germany,
it was seen as a deviancy,
Gotcha.
something that was an illness. And so Magnus, for the first time, was like, "Bro, we're all gay.
Yeah,
we're everywhere." And so he starts to begin this theory because he wants to be able to bring this back to Germany and be like, by the way, the whole world has the same subculture and it's not just us and it's not an illness. And so through science, his ethos was through science to justice. And he wanted to use science to dispel any of the beliefs at the time.
I get it.
So he brings it back. He brings all of his experiences back to Germany and begins working as sort of like an early psychiatrist for like soldiers, and like it's not really a psychiatrist, but he started noticing that a lot of his patients who were gay were also suicidal because of that.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, bro, this sucks, tale as old as time, unfortunately." And in 1896, one of his patients ended up taking his own life. And he left a letter for Hirschfeld telling him that he tried to stop being gay, but it didn't work. And he didn't have the strength to tell his parents the truth. He ended his letter with, quote, "The thought that you could contribute to a future when the German fatherland will think of us in more just terms sweetens the hour of my death."
Damn.
So pretty much like, do what you can.
Yeah.
You give me some shred of hope.
Yeah.
This understandably was the catalyst for his entire career, because he was like, this guy pretty much just gave me a call to adventure in so many words, like,
yeah. That's a pretty big gauntlet being thrown down for someone.
Yeah, which, hey, awesome, good. Yeah. He needed it because he had all these ideas and he was working on them, but this pushed him into becoming fully, like, opening that very first gay rights advocacy place and pouring everything into being a sexologist and studying it. So he knew that homosexuality was natural and wanted to scientifically prove it. So Hirschfeld and some of the other liberal-minded doctors of the time were on the same page, and they started publishing pamphlets and papers and like books and stuff about the subject, and distributing them around at different conferences in Europe, and kind of spreading these ideas, and got a lot of pushback, a lot, and got beat up in the street once, left for dead, just stuff, devastating stuff.
Yeah.
But I can't go into all the things he did, but he
did. The scientific process, which is getting beat up in the street.
Unfortunately, the scientific process for a gay man is getting beat to death, which sucks.
What's the term? I'm drawing a blank. Not refuting. What's the term when they're like, you provide it for evidence and then they like refute it or whatever? I'm dumb. I can't remember anything right now.
I'm dumb too. So through these pamphlets, he's started to accrue this huge library of stuff from all these different doctors and scientists. And in 1910, he coined the term transsexual because he had noticed that
he's the one who came up with it.
He came up with the term transsexual. Yes,
he's the guy.
He's the guy, and we call people which today is the word transgender, and at the time, people were like, oh, there's such thing as intersex people. And that's the blanket term. And he started realizing, no, there is such thing as a transsexual this just blows my mind. This blows my mind. This was 120 years ago. He, from the very beginning, was like, these people should be able to live how they want to live.
Yeah.
And then he started realizing that there was gender identities outside the binary, and that there was it wasn't so black and white. There was like people could live and present how they want to be. And so he started focusing in on trans women. So as he met more and more people, he began to find means for them to medically transition, something that had up till now never been done. And he also did this thing where he kind of got in with the police, because the police were like, right, yeah. So the police were like known for like beating up what they called cross-dressers. And he made these like cards, like these little certificates that trans people could carry around, like a doctor's note that was like,
if you're planning on beating me up,
seriously,
don't.
This doctor says don't. And it worked. It worked.
Okay.
Isn't that nuts? Yeah,
that's
so
insane that the cops listened.
Yeah. Well, I don't, maybe not all of them, but like these trans people at the time who he'd been treating could carry these around and be like, hey, before you beat the crap out of me, I want you to look at this doctor's note I have saying it's okay for me to wear pants, or it's okay for me to wear a dress.
It's crazy.
Which, when you put it like that, that's absurd.
Yeah.
Anyway, in 1919, his Scientific Humanitarian Committee was then turned into the Institute for Sexual Science, and he purchased a villa in Berlin to open as the institute, which was only able to happen because the Weimar Republic had been the new government, and they like relaxed on all of the anti-gay laws. The institute housed all of his books and the books of research and papers, journals, medical records. On the second floor, he lived with his partner Carl, and several other doctors and surgeons worked there. They would have school classes, and other doctors and academics come by and tour the facility and answer all their questions. People would come from all over Europe and the world to check it out. And for the most part, people received it very well. They received it. It's almost like when you learn about something, it doesn't become scary, you know? Spend a second learning about something. It became a safe haven for those who wanted to live and present themselves how they felt most comfortable. And they, because the harsh treatment, this is really back before the Weimar Republic, because of the harsh treatment from the police and citizens of Germany, many were proto-fascists, pre-fascists that really liked the sound of this Hitler guy. Hirschfeld and his team at the villa began to hire their trans patients as employees to keep them safe and to allow them to get work. So they had a housekeeping team made up of trans women.
Nice.
Who lived and worked there. And that's where we meet our subject for today, Dora Richter. So Dora worked at this institute as part of the housekeeping staff alongside other trans women, such as a painter named Toni Ebel and her partner Charlotte Charlac. And Charlotte was the receptionist, and Dora worked like cleaning and sewing and mending and stuff like that. And the three of them together were all voluntary human test subjects for the earliest gender-affirming surgeries in history. Whoa. Right. And so Dora, and here's what a lot of anti-trans people will come out and say, is that they were experimented on, when everything we know about them is that they asked and did it willingly. And they were voluntarily like, we're at the point in our lives, and you hear this for many trans people now, where it's like, hey, I'm either going to die or I'm going to do this. There's no in between.
I've heard that plenty
do
of
whatever
times.
it takes. Yeah. So Dora was born on the German and Czechoslovakian border in 1891 and had been living a double life since she was a kid. At home, she could dress as a girl because her parents finally were just like, bro, fine, dress however you want, because she was like refused to dress as a boy. And at one point, at the age of 6, she even tried to remove her genitals herself with a tourniquet.
Whoa.
And her parents were like, okay, yeah, wear whatever you want. Yeah. We just don't want you to die.
Just don't do that again, please. Yeah.
Please, don't do that. And so she was able to live as a girl at home. but when she went out, she had to live as a man again.
Mm-hmm.
And when she grew up, she kept getting arrested because she kept trying to get jobs as a woman. And so she unfortunately had to assume a male identity to be able to get a job and to work. So she figured it out in a way that she's like, okay, in the summertime, I'm going to work as a waiter in Berlin.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to, present as a man. And then on the time off, on the off season, I'm going to be my actual self again and get to do whatever I want. And so she kind of had this really interesting on purpose divided life where she's like, okay, it's my summer months, so I can't be myself, but I need to make money. And the arrests and harassment did continue because this was, early 1910s, maybe 1915. Even
because this is
even
the early 2010s and 2020s also.
Again, things don't go in a huge cycle.
No.
Great. We didn't have a pandemic almost exactly 100 years after
I'd
the
argue
last
this
one.
is less of a cycle and more that like it never really got to the place where it was supposed to.
That's the thing. You're right. Well, you'll see why too. I've had to swallow a lot of fiery anger while doing this tab because it's to me it's more important to focus on the person that Dora was. But the arrests and harassment continued even under the more open-minded Weimar Republic. Finally, Dora was arrested, and a judge who had been like, you just keep getting arrested. You need to go see Magnus Hirschfeld, all right? Which was very forward-thinking for the judge.
Interesting that the judge was like, yeah.
It's like, finally what the judge was like, I see what's happening. This isn't cross-dressing. Which tells me, I wonder if, like, the judge was somehow in, like, maybe he was gay or... Because people weren't coming out. How would he have known
Magnus is what I'm saying. Like the judge.
Because Magnus was very well known.
Oh, okay.
Because he was kind of like a household name, and everyone's like, Magnus, the guy who messes with people's bodies or whatever, or the guy who believes this and got beat up in the street and stuff. So the judge sent Dora to the Institute, and Dora was given a pass to present as a woman in public and began working there alongside. So she finally had this home and family kind of structure in Berlin, and she was able to be her true self for a good decade.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So in 1922... Oh, yeah. No, this woman's story is incredible. Like anyway, in 1922, a surgeon on Hirschfeld's team performed an orchiectomy, which was the removal of her testicles under the direction of Hirschfeld, who had theorized that removing the testicles would allow Dora's body to shift and appear more female. At this point, it was just a theory. The surgery went great, and within the year after the surgery, Dora's beard had disappeared, her features softened, and she began developing fat around her pelvis. And it greatly helped her dysphoria and her feeling more like a woman. For a decade, she lived there, with most visitors never even noticing or caring that she was trans. She formed friendships with many people and helped lift the community there. In the 1930s, she was given a vaginoplasty, the very first one.
The very first ever.
At age 40.
That's crazy.
And it went
40.
great. 40.
Damn.
She was 40. And there was some dispute, but people are almost certain that Dora was the first. She's now celebrated as the first.
As the first, okay.
The 2 years after her surgery were terrifying because the Nazi Party was ramping up big time. And they took over in 1933. Hirschfeld, before then, had been labeled as, by Hitler himself, the most dangerous Jew in Germany. Which, pretty sure that that's the opposite of the truth. But one of the very first things that Hitler's supporters did was loot and destroy the entire institute. Yeah. The doctors, this is going to be sad for a minute. They dragged the doctors and patients into the street to be shot, and they pulled out all of the books, histories, medical records from the past 30 years and burned them in one of the very first instances of Nazi book burnings. Devastating.
Gross.
Absolutely devastating. It's like, it kind of reminds me of, it's like the Trans Library of Alexandria.
Yeah, I was going to say.
What was in there?
What kind of shit got, yeah, exactly. So I was just thinking, like, what kind of shit got lost to the annals of time now?
So much. And where would we be now if it hadn't? Like, this put us behind decades and decades. Like, this guy was so forward. Anyway, it makes me physically ill to think about, honestly, because it's like, yeah, and people don't realize that the Nazis went after them first. Like, and Luckily, Hirschfeld was out of the country at the time. So he was on a book tour, and he was able to survive, but he did pass away in exile.
Did he
After
ever
the
go
Nazis...
back? He never went back
No.
after that?
No,
Oh,
he would
shit.
have been immediately killed.
Oh, Jesus.
After the Nazis had sufficiently cleared out the institute, most of the patients and employees had died or fled. Dora completely vanished, assumed dead like the rest.
Mhm.
Until 2 years ago,
What?
a researcher... Yep.
Oh.
2 years ago, a researcher named Clara Hartman was following leads on forgotten trans people and noticed something interesting and weird about something she was researching about Dora. While looking through the Czech archives and visiting all the little tiny towns, she found Dora's birth certificate and noticed that it had been changed. Her birth name had been crossed out and replaced by Dora Rudolphine Richter, which was her chosen name.
Mm-hmm.
This wasn't odd, since Dora had spoken about wanting to have that done. But what was weird was that the update was done on January 28th, 1946, which means Dora must have been alive. Dora must have been alive in 1946 to have that changed. This led Clara down this crazy rabbit hole. She discovered that Dora hadn't perished at all, but she had escaped the attack and continued to live as a woman, her authentic self, for the rest of her life.
Whoa.
Right? So
Where did she
sometime
go?
between... Well, they don't really know. So sometime between 1933 and 1946, she moved to Nuremberg, and she began working as a lace maker. Have you ever seen those videos of the lace, the like little wooden sticks with lace? It's really cool to watch.
No.
She began working as a lace maker, and she lived until 1966,
Holy shit.
dying at the age of 74. Clara located her neighbors and friends who were still alive, and they said Dora was cheerful and upbeat. She was loved by everyone. She had a man she lived with that she said was her brother, but everybody knew it was her lover.
Yeah.
And she even had a pet pigeon.
Somebody she brought to Thanksgiving that was her roommate.
Yes, this is Dora's Thanksgiving guest. She even had like a pet pigeon that she would carry around in her handbag. It's just like Dora, icon. Now, the reason I chose Dora, there's not much we know about her because, I mean, she didn't want people to know about her.
Understandable.
She just wanted to live. So there are many trans people I could have chosen with splashier stories and more public personas like Lily Elba or Christine Jorgensen. But the quiet survival of Dora really struck me because at the end of the day, trans people then and now just want to live their lives. They deserve the bare minimum. They deserve more than the bare minimum. They deserve to be treated like everyone else and to be given the same opportunities as everybody else. They want to have jobs. Partners, be free to have hobbies, be free to walk around town and be a beloved fixture of the society with their pigeons in their handbags.
Freedom to have handbag pigeons.
Freedom to have a pigeon in a bag. Like that's
the only time you're going to see me disagree with them. I'm going to be like, listen, I respect everything else. Pigeon in a bag, disgusting. Those are rats with wings. I hate pigeons.
You hate pigeons?
Pigeons are rats with wings. Although I know you love rats, but listen, I'm not going to kill a pigeon. I just don't like pigeons.
I can't talk about this.
I'm not a fan. Gross. Gnarly. Listen, you try living in a city where they're just swarming with pigeons everywhere. Ugh.
I have. You know what? They're just living there like
it's not about the pigeons, all right? It's about trans rights right now. Let's not get too...
You're right. Okay, you're right. We're not talking about pigeons. Back it up. So yeah. Hearing that Dora not only survived the war, but she was able to live as her authentic self through not only Nazi Germany, but also becoming like part of East Germany, becoming part of a Soviet bloc country who absolutely would have been awful to her if they found out. And she survived at the age of 74.
I mean, listen, I'm just going to say this, right? Like, on the one hand, you live in constant fear and you're terrified because you never know what's going to happen. On the other hand, I would be emboldened, particularly after Nazi Germany, and just being like, eat shit.
Right.
I got through the Nazis. You think you could? I'm like, King
You killed
King
all
Kong
my
ain't got
friends.
shit on me.
Me and my pigeon are going to be over here enjoying our lives.
I'm climbing the Empire State Building with my pigeon in a bag. Bitch.
Just knocking B-52s out of the air.
Oh, cute. So Soviet Russia, you think you can do shit?
Oh, you can't do anything.
You guys can't even plant correct plants. You're idiots. Because you listen to
You
that
guys have
dipshit
stupid
Lysenko.
scientists.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep doing this. It really like harkens back to like the stories of when she was little, and she even like as a 3 or 4 year old, she was like, "I will absolutely not let you put pants on me, Mom." Like, like the quiet stubbornness.
Yeah.
And the fact that she survived. She survived, dude. Nobody else did. Like, most trans people that were out died during the war.
Any theories as to why you think she was able to?
I don't know. I really do think that
I'm very curious.
she passed. She was
passing.
She
was like enough where it didn't arouse suspicion somehow or something, or what?
Yeah, and she's always been very. There's not much about her because she's always been very quiet and private and keeps her head down, but not out of fear, but just kind of like, I just want to live my life. I want to be my lace maker. And I think I would assume that maybe even having that guy she called her brother.
Yeah. As like
to
a
be
cover
the one
of some
to
sort.
be like
Not
the
cover,
front,
but
like go out and get something for her, or go out and be the person who most people see. Maybe helped hide her.
Yeah, but even then the Nazis would still be like, hey, that guy's got a quote unquote sister that he lives with. What's her deal? Why don't we ever see her? And then they'd go in there and harass them.
I'm fascinated to know, because I think the woman who found her out, that she still survived after, I think she's gone on a big deep dive, and I didn't really get into what happened, but I just know that whatever did happen, she was happy at the end of her life. Yeah. And she was a wonderful member of the community and made some really pretty lace. And that's what I like about her. I liked that about her, is that like she just wanted to be a normal person. And despite everything, she did it. And today, almost 100 years later, there are still fascists who have chosen trans people as the enemy. Mm-hmm. Don't fall for it.
No.
No one. Dora didn't hurt anyone. Nobody. No one's gonna hurt you. Okay. No one. How they dress or name themselves are gonna hurt you. That's it. That's at the end of the day. The fascists are gonna hurt you.
Yeah.
That's my tab.
Fascists are the ones who are gonna blow up your house and your home and bomb you and kill you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Marginalized people are not the enemy. Boom.
No.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for that, Tab. Thank you for letting us know about her. That was wonderful. I'm really curious about.
Salute to Dora.
That's the part of fun historical fiction that I'd be like, it'd be fun to come up with an entire story of like, what was that lady doing for like on a day to day for those 10 years, right? 20 years. Yeah. You just come up with some crazy shit there. It'd be some fun.
Like, what was she doing in like 1943? You know what I mean? Where it's like still alive. I forgot to say her other two friends. Well, of course sorry, I can't remember their names. Charlotte and her girlfriend, they survived as well. But they all thought, all three of them thought the others were dead until later when Charlotte reconnected with her ex, and she was like, "Bro, we're all alive. Not Dora, but
imagine?
We are." Yeah. And that's another thing where it's like the very first people to receive gender-affirming care all survived the war.
That's pretty awesome, anyway. Actually.
Isn't that crazy?
I kind of love that.
Right? They're like, oh, no, we're not going to. No, absolutely not.
Again, emboldened. Anyway. Oh, cool, Hitler. How about your entire Reich crumbles and you all die like idiots?
Yeah, I hope you all die. And they did, thankfully.
Good.
Best thing Hitler ever did was put a bullet in his own head.
Just kill himself. Yeah, I wish he had done it earlier.
Me too. Anyway, listener mail? No, we got to close our tabs.
Now we got to close our tabs. It's quite the transition there.
Whatever.
What do we want to do? So many to choose from.
I
kind of want to do Hitler putting a bullet in his brain, but that's not really what we're here for.
No, we've done guns for the last 3. I think we're gonna not do guns. Something from yours? Let's do something from yours. How about like a superhero punch?
Sure, let's do a superhero punch. Like kapow!
Yeah,
like the actual 1960s Batman.
Yeah, Sorry, Alyssa.
Okay.
Thank you. Actually, it might not even be Alyssa. It might be you fighting this one. So
Oh,
sorry
no.
to you.
Well, that means there'll be no sound effects because I'm too lazy. I have no library to speak of. Anyway,
Oh, great.
I'll count us down. You ready?
Yes, please do. Yep.
3, 2, 1. Closed.
I don't want to close all the Dora one because I do want to see what else she did. Anyway,
moving on to
Okay.
listener email number 1 is from Matt from the swamplands of the Toledo Strip.
interesting. Okay.
And this has been edited a little bit because it was a little bit longer than we were going to have time to read, but this is most of it. Hello, Kaveh and Hannah. I'm a bit of a latecomer to the podcast and still catching up on episodes, but there has been a recurring topic that I felt I had to share. The rivalry between Michigan and Ohio has been mentioned in passing several times during your podcast, notably during episode 21, The Great Moon Hoax, when Kaveh mentions a few other things going on in 1835 to give context for this tab. Since I live in the Toledo area, I figured I'd give a little more of this incredibly stupid story and the origins of the Michigan-Ohio rivalry. Essentially, the issue goes back to when the Northwest Territories were being roughly divided up in what would be future states. One such boundary was from the southern tip of Lake Michigan, running east in a line until it hit the edge of Lake Erie. When Ohio was becoming a state, they got worried that an interpretation of those rules and maps might lead them to having very little access to Lake Erie and the port city of Toledo. So Ohio decided to just reinterpret the ordinances and maps in a way that favored them. Wow, that sounds like the English. Years later, Michigan starts to move towards statehood, and it establishes its boundaries based on the original wording of the Northwest Ordinance. This, of course, led to Michigan and Ohio both laying claim to the same strip of land, which became known as the Toledo Strip.
Again, not either of their land, but yeah, go for it.
Each sent in militias to enforce their respective claims. Congress gets involved, the area gets resurveyed several times, and even President Andrew Festering Boyle Jackson weighs in. Even though most could reasonably see that Ohio was in the wrong, they were already officially a state and therefore had more political clout, which is why Congress ultimately sided with Ohio. So as a concession, Michigan received the Upper Peninsula, or UP, as people from Michigan like to say. Which at the time seemed, as I was reading Upper Peninsula, and I was like, oh, I'm married into Michigan royalty. UP.
Yeah, you are.
She's not really royalty, but I just call her Michigan royalty. Which at the end, she is to us. Which at the time seemed like a bad Michigan trade-off. Which at the time seemed like a bad trade-off, but would later be discovered to be rich with ores and other natural resources. Anyways, love the podcast. Thank you for filling my days with random bits of knowledge. Matt. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
I have a topic of conversation to have with my wife now and all of my other Michigan in-laws.
But no one from Ohio, all right? We're not going to... Just kidding.
Listen,
I don't know.
Can't all be perfect.
Sometimes you get given the worst bit of land, and that's fine. Okay?
It's okay.
What am I saying? Mine's from somebody named Matt. So
what? Did Matt write in twice?
Nope. But it's another Josie situation.
It's a different Matt. Oh,
so
keep it Matt.
Keep it Matt today. Yeah. Which doesn't have quite the same ring to it. Hi, Hannah and Kaveh, or Kaveh and Hannah. Thank you.
Interesting.
I guess. I am an OG 500 Open Tabs listener here. Clear back from episode 1.
Whoa.
Listening to you guys is a genuine joy, and your podcast makes me an even more sparkling conversationalist than I already am, which is a low bar, but whatever. I also want to note that I've had to cut this one down too, quite a bit, but hopefully it's still Matt's hilarious voice still shines through because this is really funny.
Okay, good.
I am writing today about how hemorrhaging cows and a former U.S. president who literally could not stop having heart attacks ended up spawning one of the most widely used life-saving drugs in the world. Also, rat poison. In the early days of the Great Depression, Wisconsin farmer Ed Carlson was pretty nonplussed when his cows kept eating winter hay and bleeding out all over the place.
Can't do it.
I think the hay was like moldy or something. One day, he had decided he'd had enough, so he scooped up a milk jug full of diseased cow blood and drove straight to the capital of Madison to find a state veterinarian to tell him what the hell was going on.
Oh, I see.
He was able to find the laboratory of PhD biochemistry professor Dr. Carl Paul Link. So Dr. Link, as professors do, told his PhD candidate students to solve the problem.
Yeah.
The students
Hand it
did
off to the
solve
TA
problem.
and let the class do it.
Then take all the credit, you know?
Yeah.
The students did solve the problem. Right. Great. The students did solve the problem, synthesizing the molecule that they found in the highly cursed milk jug of cow's blood. In the 8 years that followed, Dr. Link and his team realized a tiny bit of bleedy poison might be good for preventing blood clots in humans and animals in such a way they could protect against strokes and heart attacks. So they partnered with the Wisconsin Alumni Research Foundation, WARF, to try to refine. Exactly. It was him. To try to refine Compound 42, which is the compound they made from it, into a helpful product. As is often the case, the chemical was tested on rodents first, and they kept super dying, and everyone was like, well, shit, this is terrible medicine, but it's a great pest poison. Nevertheless, WARF persisted because they really thought that tests proved that while it was awful to mice and stuff, it was safer for larger animals and probably humans. Mm-hmm. So they decided to give it a real name, derived from their acronym, Warfarin.
Worf gets his own medicine?
He does. It's from cow blood. Meanwhile, the pest control
By the way, that is something Worf would do, by the way.
Really?
There's no need. There's no need for bandages. I will simply drink blood from this cow.
Oh, I watched some Star Trek.
It would bring me great honor.
First time I ever watched Star Trek. Is at your house.
It was great.
It was unhinged. Meanwhile, the pest control world decided to make a shit ton of poison traps that included the warfarin-adjacent compounds. This was great for people who hated mice and rats, but not so great for doctors who were trying to figure out how to tell their patients that they were getting a prescription for rat poison. Side note, I'm a practicing pharmacist, and my more elderly patients still refer to their warfarin as rat poison pills. Enter President of the United States of America, Dwight Eisenhower.
Oh my God, Eisenhower? Bench boy. Bench boy himself is the one who kept getting heart attacks?
He had like a ton of heart attacks in the White House.
I don't think I knew that.
Like 5 or 6.
It's whenever he wasn't sitting on the bench, that's why.
That was the bench that kept him from having heart.
Saved him.
That bench is a hero. Matt says, I am not touching this guy with a 10-foot pole, other than to mention that he had a pretty serious heart attack while he was in office in 1955. His doctor, apparently a forward-thinking fellow, decided to put old Ike on warfarin. Now, hordes of doctors across America could claim that if it's good enough for the president, it's good enough for my patients. Yeah. And warfarin turned into a blockbuster drug that enjoyed about 50 or 60 years at the forefront of actual life-saving therapy. Keeping it Josie, Matthew.
Thanks, Matthew. Keeping it Matthew.
Keep it Matt. Keeping it Matt.
Keeping it Matthew. Amazing. If you two have a interesting tab that you'd like us to read on the show, please go ahead and email us at 500opentabs@gmail.com. That's 500. Let us know some fun facts.
Yeah.
Like the Matthews did. If you're named Matthew, you should also send another email.
And if you're named Josie, just add to it. If you're named
Josie, really, if you have any kind of name. If you're named,
honestly,
no emails from unnamed people. I feel that would be weird. I don't know. I would think that that's like some sort of scam likely situation. Although, unless you're scam likely in the Discord, which we have a Discord, and you could join. I'm doing a terrible job at signing off. Hannah, please save me.
No, you're not. This is all organic, okay? Join it. We also have a Patreon where if you want to help support us financially because you love this podcast and we give it to you every week and it's free, you can do that for $3 a month and you get extra bonus stuff and generally get to vote on stuff.
Or give us more than $3 a month. You can give us $300 a month if you can afford it.
Times are hard, I get it. But if somehow you have the money, now this is clunky, but
greatly appreciated. Yeah.
It'd be greatly appreciated. We love doing this show. We love you guys. Thank you for listening. And you can follow me at Hannah Hillam on everything.
You can follow me at PermaFriends on Instagram and then Taherian on Blue Sky. And of course, thank you to Alyssa as always. And anything you want to announce before we wrap it up? I think we're like end Comic-Con? Of July here, end of June. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be at Comic-Con in a month. Table BB01, San Diego Comic-Con. So if you're there, come by. Stop by and say hi. And I'll be doing a panel.
I'm going to be on that panel as well. And I'll be on another Mina panel, which I'm sure will be a fun one to discuss. But this time of year.
Nothing's happening in the Mina world.
Every time I do
Bro.
one of these, we're just like, all right, guys, what do we got to talk about
I know.
today?
And you always handle it really well.
Do I? Oh, you weren't there at the WonderCon one was really
the
fun.
last one? Well, that one, okay.
That one, no, it was good. I had a fun time. I just was like, oh, it's all going away. We gotta.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was a good time.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you're in San Diego, let us know. We'll be there. I know Jazz will be there. Jazz came back on the Discord and mentioned that she's gonna be there. Jazz. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. Just to recap, remember the people, you guys. Don't remember the assholes who are trying to get you to swing one way or another. There's people just trying to live their lives and don't let their memories go forgotten for nothing.
They're people, and don't believe the imperialist powers that will have you believe otherwise.
Anyway, in the meantime, I'm going to say keep it Matthew, just in honor of her 2 emails.
Yeah. Bye.
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 What a sign off.
Great sign off. Look, nothing's good.